Hello and welcome back to the Cloud Blue podcast. It's been a while, hasn't it? About an hour, I think, since our previous episode. I'm your host, Dan Rowlandson, joined by John Townley. Do not adjust your YouTube channel, your Spotify feed, whatever it is. This is a fresh episode of the Cloud and Blue podcast. I think we ended the last one with, we'll see you Monday. No, we won't, John. We'll see you in an hour. How are you, mate? How's things been in the last hour? Any changes?
Yeah. It's this is the transfer window for you. You say one thing or you allude to one thing, and then something happens straight after. So to be fair, I think we've been quite lucky in this window so far, probably because of Villa's lack of business. To be fair, that we haven't had to be this agile, but now we've had to change thumbnails, or you've had to change thumbnails and titles of other videos that went out maybe an hour ago or so. To fit around some news.
Yeah, so we're live again for everybody who's listened to this on Apple Podcasts and whatnot. We did a show, I think it was like 1:30, 2 o'clock or something on Friday afternoon. We did a big live Q&A, and one of those talking points that, to be fair, we brought up because we wanted to talk about it, was there needs to be a decision made about Jacob Ramsey and his future. You either need to cash in and sell him while he's got two years remaining and help PSR and whatever else, or you offer him a new deal. And what does that mean for others? You know, that kind of talking points. So much so to the point that he was in the title and he was on the thumbnail. Now, we can't have two videos that are basically the same. And if you click that previous one thinking Ramsey's future, you'd be expecting us to talk about the fact that he's been offered a new deal. That has now changed in the last since we last recorded. That is the news. So we changed the title of the previous one. This one will be Aston Villa offer new deal to Jacob Ramsey. That is good news, right? We're all kind of happy about this, I assume. Homegrown talent. Kind of bags of potential there still. We spoke about it in a previous episode at some point, John, that you kind of forget sometimes how good he is because he doesn't have these sustained periods in the side. But that is the key thing. If you can keep him fit, there is still a player in there that, for me, right this second, starts on the left-hand side for Villa.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm glad for a couple of reasons that we've offered him a new deal. It's just a question mark now about
we'll be live again in an hour when we know how long that contract is.
It's the reason why we're doing this video is firstly because annoyingly, we went live before we had the news that Villa have offered him a new deal. But I think it's just an interesting one because it did look, I don't say likely, but should I say earlier in the window, when interest in Ramsey was growing, and there was murmurings of quite a few different clubs. I was aware of the Forest interest being strong. I don't know if that was just because of Gibbs White
related.
I'm not totally sure if it was, but if so, then that would make sense. But they had interest before Gibbs White was leaving to Tottenham, or apparently supposed to be leaving to Tottenham. And then apparently West Ham were also interested. We know that last summer Tottenham were really hot on him. Johan Lange, especially. There's a few Villa recruitment staff that work for Tottenham as well, and they rate Ramsey very highly. And it's a player that they really wanted to sign, but Emery put his foot down and said no, Ramsey isn't going. This summer that changed a little bit to the point where I think, again, as we said in the previous video, if a sizable bid came in for Ramsey, that would, test Villa's resolve. My guess is that any sort of interest in the player would be in a certain price bracket that Villa wouldn't want to lose him for. And therefore, you give him a new deal. That would make the most sense to me. We can't get away from the fact that Ramsey hasn't been at his best level, I don't think, since the back end of Emery's first season. However, it's not a player that you'd want to see leave because of that, if that makes sense. You want him to be able to have the platform to prove himself again. I'm going to say prove himself, not prove himself as a player who can play like Buendia, don't want to sound rude, but a player who can play in the squad and be, part of it. Ramsey could be one of our best players if he gets to the level that we know he can get to. So I think that's why it's not worth giving up on. And as I mentioned, because that huge bid, because that bid didn't come, that was, I don't know, in that sort of 40 million bracket or whatever it may be. That's almost, I suppose, allowed Villa to think, well, if that's the case, we don't want to sell him for this price because that would be far too cheap. So therefore, let's protect his value, and also, it's more than that as well. But cynically, you have to look at the value side as well. That's why quite a number of Villa players at the moment are seeing contract renewals. But also, if we're talking about just the kind of technical aspects of this team, And as we mentioned earlier, if you take Ramsey away from it, there's now a big hole in the team for me. So yeah, while Ramsey does need to improve, and I think he will, hopefully, I think it's a big positive that we are trying to actively keep him in the team. Are you on mute, Dan? I can't hear you.
I'm on
There
mute.
you go.
Yeah. We're going to go through some of the live comments shortly. One from Liam, who said, I missed the first live stream due to being 6 hours behind. I'm glad I'm catching this one. Welcome, Liam. Please go back and watch the other one, though, on demand. Apart from the Ramsey section, which is now out of date, the rest of it was still good, wasn't it? And Beans81's back. He says, I'm now watching the podcast at the lodge at Centre Parks. Made it. Good news on JJ. Well done, the Beans, for getting to your destination. That's the beauty of live podcasting, John.
Still hasn't told us
where Beans has gone from.
Yeah, he still hasn't told us what he got from Burger King.
Please get in touch with the Burger King chat. We'll revitalise that from a previous episode. Just on the kind of the cynical nature of this move, I guess, if you want to call it that. Now, don't get me wrong. When we're talking about Villa's window and has it been good or not, firstly, if you can keep hold of the players you want to and make a couple of additions, I think that's a really strong window. In some ways, stronger than, as you've touched on before, we might spend 150 million on a new left winger and a new striker and a new centre half. But if that's because they're replacing Konsa, Ramsey and Watkins, that's a risk. It's exciting and it's flashy. You've made some signings, but you don't know that that's going to be any better. We know we've got something good here, and you add some tweaks to it. So that's good news. Any new contract, I think, is good news because that's a player that Unai Emery wants to keep. That's a good thing. The cynical side of it for me is that there's a handful of players on 2 years left where some are no-brainers for, well, of course I deserve a new one, like a Tielemans. There's no doubt he's very good, we want to keep him. I then kind of look at some of the others, particularly Ramsey and Cash, maybe McGinn, but to a lesser extent, they're in this weird bracket of, well, if they went, I wouldn't be like, oh no, this is the end of the world. And you offer them a new deal to kind of protect some kind of value that if Ramsey doesn't improve this season or has another injury-plagued year again, you have to sell him next season because you can't kind of keep persisting with something that's not quite there, but you've then still got him on this long-term deal that if we're getting 30, 40 million now, you're still going to get that later down the line. If you don't give him that season, he's going to go next season for 15 and then you've lost out on the cash. Matty Cash as well, the same. Is it someone we can improve on? Yeah, definitely. But if he gets offered a new deal because Unai Emery wants to keep him, firstly, I'm fine with that. Secondly, if next season we deem that, okay, he now can be replaced, well, Matty Cash is still worth 20, 25 as opposed to 15 or something. So there's a weird kind of selection of contracts where they're a little bit like, it feels like we're not forced into it because we wouldn't do it if we didn't want to, but it makes sense to offer them one, even if it doesn't mean we think they're going to be here for the next 4 seasons. It is a very short-term thing still.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. It's something that Villa have... It's interesting, actually. I think last season you had the likes of Rodgers and obviously John Duran, which kind of adds weight to your point that contracts don't mean that players stay for even a year more than what they're supposed to, let alone 5. But Villa's kind of strategy was to keep or to give some of their younger players longer deals, and they knew that this new wave would then be coming, and it was Tyrone Mings, Kamara, some of the players, Luca Dean as well. Yeah, players who you either cash in on or you give new deals to. And I think for a lot of the players, as you said there, Dan, it's pretty obvious. For example, we could do a video. Did we do a video? I can't remember. I was in America. Like Kamara signs a new deal. You do a video about that, explaining why it's so important because it's an integral part of the team. The Ramsey video, like as we explained here, is a little bit different because it's more interesting, I think. Firstly, I want Ramsey to stay. Don't get me wrong, for lots of different reasons. Some of them we've already covered. But secondly, well, what does that mean for the rest of the team? Because again, we're under no illusion that Villa do need to make money and their wage bill needs to come down. Not just this summer, but next summer as well. So it's an interesting one. A Villa protecting its value and hoping, well, if Ramsey has a really exceptional season next season, you either keep him because he's been fantastic. And to be honest, that would probably be the only option there. You wouldn't sell a player who's been kind of revived himself as such. But if he, as you said there, Dan, if he struggles next season and doesn't have the campaign that we need him to, but he has 3 or 4 years left on his deal,
as opposed to 1.
Yeah, it's easier to kind of marry that situation up. However, what you would say is that he needs a good campaign for his own sake as well, Ramsey.
Yeah.
Just in terms of, well, if it doesn't work out for him at Villa and we had to make a sale and all of a sudden he became kind of under threat, shall I say, well then, he needs somewhere to go. But I don't want to kind of talk negatively like that. We're just analysing the situation of why would you give Jacob Ramsey a new deal, and these are some of the reasons.
Well, yeah, because
other contracts are much more obvious. You give Kamara as many years as you can for, best paid player, that sort of thing.
Because I would suggest that Ramsey's on-pitch performance doesn't warrant a new deal. Does it? He's not overperforming to the point where we have to tie him down because we don't want to lose him.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? We might lose him one day, but at least we lose him on our terms.
Yeah. As in what you're saying is...
Tielemans, 2 years left, player of the season. Like, he's earned his new deal regardless, but Ramsey hasn't really.
Yeah, like Ramsey and Rodgers, let's say those two players. Rodgers' on-pitch performance earns a new deal. Ramsey's on-pitch performance doesn't, if he had 4 or 5 years left, but he only has less than 2. So Villa are not only protecting his value, but also they do see value in the player, as in for Villa. And that's the key thing that, we can talk about value and what it could mean for him later down the line if he doesn't have the campaign he wants. But also, to think more positively, this could be a player that realises his potential of being an England international, a player who Steven Gerrard tipped, not long after joining Villa, as he sees all the traits that an England player needs in Ramsey. He was exceptional, as I say, when Emery first joined. He's shown sparks of it in different stages. Even the season before last, when he had that torrid time with injury, there was a couple of games where he looked to have his swagger back. Last season as well, I can remember a few moments. Too, he performs a really important function in the team. And as we said in the previous video as well, I think that the profile of player that he is, and that Rodgers is as well, quite similar. Off that left side, I think that's exactly what Emery wants from that position, essentially. So everything points to us wanting this to work like badly. Homegrown player as well. Everything that comes with that, Villa fan through and through. Obviously Cole and Aaron. Obviously Aaron's moved on. Cole's in the academy. There's a lot there to love about Jacob and his story with Villa, and it definitely doesn't feel like it's finished yet. So I'm hoping that things can get sorted. As I say, the information that we have from within is that a new deal has been offered. What happens from here, we'll wait and see. This doesn't actually mean anything yet, as far as I'm aware. Hopefully, it's a pretty easy conversation and things can get sorted. New season, new contract, and I would say new Ramsey. I almost want to say old Ramsey at the same time, because that's what we want to see on a consistent basis. As I said in the previous video, I think a lot of it is to do with confidence. Maybe kind of a whole pre-season, no injuries, no niggles, and a fresh deal, which for Ramsey would mean confidence in himself. The board have shown confidence in me and faith in me. That may be the catalyst that he needs and that we all want to see.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's there's definitely something in that. This is a complete a stupid point, really, but I'm just say it anyway, just for the sake of the other side of things. We're taking this as new deal offered for Ramsey equals new deal signed by Ramsey. So any chance he's been offered one, but he doesn't sign it because he wants to leave.
Just to quickly add,
like he wants game time somewhere else.
Yeah. Could you imagine? Ramsey, the way he is settled, kind of goes without saying. And I think it's one of those where he has interest from other teams. But really, does he want to move to West Ham? No, surely not. If you kind of put yourself in his shoes, Villa fan growing up through the academy, one of the best eras to be a Villa player in years. So much excitement. He's got opposition not locked down, but that's his. If he plays well, he starts every week for me. Unai Emery loves him. Oh, join West Ham, 16th. You're playing in an athletics pitch, and Graham Potter's your manager, who is from Shirley.
He won't be there that long,
but he won't be there for that long. It's pretty toxic. Like, come on, it's not something that I think he'd be interested in. Potentially, Forest would have been relatively interesting.
Forest,
in him. But again, it's not Villa. It's not your boyhood team. So every part of me thinks that Ramsey would want to stay anyway, even without signing a new deal. I just hope that if we can get that over the line and as far as I'm aware, it's just that they've offered a new deal. Hopefully that's, again, clean cut from there. but that could maybe give him the push that everyone needs and a bit of security as well. Because I don't know, maybe last season he was thinking about that. Next summer, something that we mentioned a lot of times. Not trying to say that he would listen to what we're saying, but I always look at who has 2 years left at the end of that season, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So am I right in thinking Watkins would have 2 years left next summer? So, decisions have to be made when it hits 2 years left. That's basically what I'm trying to say. Ramsey, we knew that was coming, and it's now, and a decision hadn't been made up until obviously recently. So
let me just read a few comments, then we're going to talk about what it means for other players, and then we're going to wrap up because we did an hour not long ago. We've already done 15 minutes. Simon says, JJ is one of us. Best teams always have at least one homegrown. It's dangerous to have an owner, manager, and players with no emotive connection to the fans at Villa Park. I don't know. Yeah, I just
add a.
Go on.
Sorry. This is going to sound like pretty. People don't want to hear this, right? But if it was to happen and we have a derby next season, you want Ramsey in those games, by the way. Just saying.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Okay.
Or the year after. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but I think it's a possibility that could happen next year or the year after. You want JJ in those games. He was in the away end, wasn't he, when Grealish scored at St Andrews. I'm just saying, it kind of alludes to that point of you want your club's fibre to be felt in the dressing room.
Yeah.
And we have a couple of local, Rodgers didn't grow up a Villa fan, nearly the opposite. So, they'll know what it means, but Ramsey in particular.
Yeah. Adam says we're offering a new deal on his potential, not performances. Potential needs to be fulfilled in the next 2 years, though. Nick says if Ramsey signs, Villa finish fourth. If he doesn't sign, Villa still finish fourth, which, why not? I like it. And Bloom says, interesting call, and I could have gone either way with Ramsey. If we put our strongest 11 out, he would not be in the team. But with injury, suspensions, Europa League, FA and League Cup games, ... I think he's in the strongest team for now. I think the only suggestion is Rodgers off the left. But I think he's better in the middle, isn't he?
I think if you ask Unai Emery to pick his favourite team, I think Ramsey would be in it.
Yeah.
But as we kind of keep saying in these videos, and I forgot to mention it earlier in a different podcast that we did, but you need 2 players per position. That it's McGinn or Ramsey, it's Rodgers or Gesson or whoever. Like you need to have 2 per position where you think, well, he should be playing instead of him, and then someone else says no. That so competition is really important. Ramsey would definitely be an important player of the squad, I think, especially if he improves his level.
Daz says, at Derby, no chance we're getting relegated again. Oh, good. I like it. That's what I want to hear. Yeah. And finally then, from Ronan, sorry, late in, but just think the club would have moved a line up. Do we think the club would have a move lined up for Bailey then? It seems strange knowing we need some kind of sale, and Ramsey was one of the few generating interest. And this is the thing that kind of almost, we're not going to do a whole thing on it, but we said we kind of have to do another episode now because this is big news, because it's good for Ramsey. But what does that actually mean as a knock-on effect? We know Villa need to make a sale, even more so now probably than Gesson has signed. If he's signed for money, Villa are going to have to do something, right? It's been talked about for a long time. Villa are going to have to make sales. They need to bring the wages down, etc., etc. Ramsey was one that was generating interest from West Ham, from Tottenham, from Nottingham Forest. So if he now stays, Kamara is staying. It looks like, as of now, Emi Martinez is staying. Ollie Watkins, we believe, is staying. Morgan Rodgers is staying. The kind of list of potential sales is getting smaller and smaller by the week, which ultimately is a good thing. We're keeping hold of players that we want to keep. But there's a big kind of... Do you remember the season we were relegated and the fans had the arrows pointing towards the goal? I feel like we could all just hold up those arrows now towards Leon Bailey in the dressing room. Like, it's
God, that sounds harsh.
Isn't it? It surely must be, though, no?
Jeez. Oh, God. Yeah, I mean, this is it. So Villa, and it's worth saying as well that Villa, we have the January window and we have June next year as well. So it's not as if we have to make. If Villa have a void to fill as such, they don't have to do it before the end of the summer. But obviously, you'd rather make money quicker rather than later because then you have less power essentially. And if Bailey and Wendy don't have much game time, then their price will obviously depreciate. I just look at the clubs that are interested in Bailey, and I think that they can't pay what we'd want for him. I say that in terms of only what we know. There could be a club that come out of nowhere and think, you know what, yeah, we'll take Bailey for this amount of money. But you're right, Dan. It does limit who could go this summer. Yeah, you're right. Bailey and Buendia appear to be the obvious two who would make combined.
Because like Moreno, you expect he'll probably go. Dean's definitely staying now. Maatson obviously will stay. You know, we don't want to lose Conso or Torres or, do you know what I mean? Like all the other big hitters you expect to stay. So it really only is Bailey left for me as even a possibility. Bailey and Buendia.
Yeah, and combined they'd make a sum of money that would
30,
probably be okay.
30, 40 maybe.
I think I
think that's what we realistically Villa want more. I think you'll get 20-ish for Bailey and 15-ish for Buendia.
Yeah, and this is it though. Like Besiktas aren't surely not going to be paying £20 million. Fenerbahce don't spend that much money on players either. Not more than that anyway. They might, buy a lot of players and pay wages, but in terms of transfer fees, I think the record fee is not that much more than 20. So yeah, it's going to be interesting in a few weeks to kind of come now, and that's again another reason why we sort of wanted to jump on. Firstly, to kind of update people, but then secondly, what does it mean? It's an interesting one.
Yeah, Jamie there in the comments says the panic of sales stopped when the Premier League voted in favour of the women's team sales. It was a game changer for us. It is, but the wages problem still exists.
Yeah, PSL was never the big issue for Villa. There was always, and I think there will always be room to wriggle out of that. Essentially, SCR is the problem for Villa, and they're under restriction essentially from UEFA, having a positive net squad balance. Players coming in and out.
I would presume Bailey is on higher wages than Gesson is.
Yeah, that would be my guess as well, because Gesson wouldn't have been on a lot at Nice, and Bailey signed a new deal, didn't he, in 2024, maybe? Start February 2024, I think, after he had that really, had a really good full season 2 years ago, but first half as well was brilliant. So, yeah, obviously Rashford, Asensio and Disasi going out as well. They're on big wages. But yeah, that SCR has always been the thing for Villa. The wage has to come down nearly 20% this summer and next. So that's quite a lot of work to do.
Yeah. Okay, I think that'll do us for this little bonus podcast, I guess, bolt on to the previous episode. Hopefully people have watched or listened to both back to back pretty much. I suppose we've now done like one really long episode, I guess.
Covered quite a lot in the other one that isn't to do with Ramsey, by the way. It's
the Ramsey section was probably 10 minutes out of the whole hour, probably. There's loads of different talking points in the other one. So if you've not seen it, please do go back and watch it or listen to it. I thought it was a really, really good episode. Yeah. We won't do anything else over the weekend unless breaking news happens. We're not going to cover either of the friendlies because we're doing our big season preview stuff on Monday. So if anything from that comes out of it, we'll touch on that on Monday. If, for example, Leon Bailey was to be sold on Saturday afternoon, we'll jump on and react to that as well. But if not, nothing planned. Although we did say that an hour ago, so who knows? John, thanks for joining me again. Hope you're well since the last time we spoke. Thanks to everyone who joined. Oh, quickly, from Beans, 6 beef patties, all with cheese and bacon. I follow the carnivore diet, as you asked. That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, I'm not going to go over it now, but I don't like cheese, so I'd just have the meat. If it is meat, is it meat at Burger King? Who knows?
That'll do. Allegedly, it is meat, apparently, John.
Yeah, we should say that to protect us. That was just a joke.
Other burger outlets are available as well. Thank you for joining me. Thanks, everyone, for coming back and tuning into the second episode of the day. It's been an absolute blast covering all things Villa. John, thanks for joining me. Thank you for watching or listening, and we'll see you Monday. Fingers crossed.